Throughout the last few months, it can be seen that President Trump has constantly been angry at protesters and anyone using their First Amendment right to gather peacefully, specifically when it shows him in a negative light and goes against his agenda. There have been multiple different threats to colleges that do not control student protesters, with President Trump going as far as to call protesters the enemy. He has threatened that protesting should be illegal and has called on colleges to stop it. This has been increasingly concerning because as universities go against his wishes, he targets them, making them bend to his mold or be punished. We have seen this with Harvard, Cornell, Columbia, and others. While these are all private institutions, if he were to go against a public school or a public school student, such as you or I, he would have a much harder time, as we have more rights than you might think we do. Even students at Cornell, or at least part of their school, is SUNY. It's a SUNY system, and those SUNY students attend a state-funded portion of the school. I'm going to go over some important Supreme Court cases to help you better understand your rights as a public school student, specifically attending a public college. It's not for high school. You want to utilize your First Amendment right, whether that's standing up to a political power or for any other reason, simply because you don't agree with something that your school is doing. It's important to understand your rights. When it comes to universities, your First Amendment right may seem like they don't exist. And while in some cases this is true, students attending public universities still get to keep their First Amendment rights. In Healy v. James in 1972, the Supreme Court ruled that public universities must be able to keep their First Amendment rights. This means that while you may think that you have no power when it comes to your school telling you that you can't protest or that you can't say a certain thing, that isn't true. The First Amendment is above your school's constitution, above their rules. There are still some limitations to this power, such as if you are doing, if what you're doing interrupts classes or interferes with the student's ability to learn. That means that you are having a protest or rally at a certain time frame or at a certain place, you need to have those in check. If you're not doing it at a certain location that isn't authorized for that, or at a time where the school has said no, then you can get in trouble. And there are a few manner restrictions on a student's speech, but that is when you start going into bullying territory or harassment. That is affecting somebody's well-being, such as cyberbullying or actually bullying somebody, with your words. That could be seen as a mannerism problem. If the group wants to be officially recognized, the school would also, that would also mean that the school could force you to conform to their reasonable campus laws, which means you would be able to show a law. If you were able to show a law is not reasonable, if the school got upset, then you could fight it if you thought it was unreasonable. Even with these few restrictions, you still have the power to speak out, and neither the school nor the government can stop that from happening or censor what you say, as it is your First Amendment right. To continue on, Papish v. Board of Curators of the University of Missouri in 1973 resulted in the Supreme Court ruling that public universities cannot punish anyone for offensive speech as long as it's not interfering with a person's learning or how the school functions on a day-to-day basis, such as distracting students from schoolwork. This means that you can wear and say whatever you want, and they cannot punish you because they think that what you're saying is offensive. Barbara Papish was expelled for school for disturbing campus students with an offensive political cartoon on campus. The cartoon did not interfere with the student's work or the student's functionality, so she could not be punished. The same applies to you. Just because you have opposing opinions about the current administration on a certain topic doesn't mean that you can't speak up, for example. As you cannot be punished for that. You cannot be punished for speaking out against the school, against an organization, against something you don't care about, or that you care deeply about. In a different case, Wilmar v. Vincent in 1981, the Supreme Court ruled that a public university cannot discriminate against a group due to religion. This applies to all groups, meaning that your political group or other group cannot be discriminated against just because your view opposes the school. You still have the same rights as every other group in the school. If one area is open to a group of students, you're also entitled to that spot as long as it is not reserved by a different group at that time or day that you want to use it. So, it's first come, first serve, but you still have the right to use that space, whether you're a religious group, political group, just a normal student club. As long as you want to use it, you can still use it if you're a student group. Just because your public university might not agree with you or your group does not mean you are not protected. You have the First Amendment right at your disposal. While there are certain restrictions, you are still able to utilize this right and stand up for what you believe in, whether that is a political matter, a religious matter, or something else. For those who attend a private school, that is unfortunately a different story, as that is a private company, basically, that is not subject to the First Amendment in the same way public institutions are. It's important to look up your school's rules and laws before doing anything, but for public university students, you can take action now. You have the power at your disposal, and they cannot silence you. I hope that this inspires you guys to not be too scared, especially if you go to a public university. If you go to a private one, that's obviously a different story. But usually the school rules are not too intense, and they typically tend to side with the students. But still, better be safe than sorry. Always look into it. You never know which way your school will align and what they'll find offensive. So if you go to a public school, please look up your own school rules. But private university students, not private, public, they all start with P's. You have the First Amendment at your disposal, and all public universities have to follow that rule. So hopefully this helps you understand your rights a little bit better.